Hello, good people of YouTube. Sealord here, and today we have the newly released Tier 10 Techline Heavy Cruiser, the Castilla, in port today. The Spanish Heavy Cruiser, I should have added in there. This is the top of the newly fully released Spanish Heavy Cruiser Techline. I have not played her, I have played her Tier 9 counterpart, however, but I'm very excited to get my hands on her today. So we're going to go through the ship, talk about her quirks and features, we'll take her into battle for some time, and then at the end I will give her a score out of 10 and let you guys know if I think this line is worth grinding up to the Castilla. Of course, massive shout out to the channel's Patreons. I am not a CC, nor supported by or affiliated with Wargaming in any way, shape, or form. So in the cases of ship reviews, I either have to grind out or buy the ships, depending upon if they are Techline or premium ships. And the donations from the generous Patreons make this review and all ship reviews on this channel possible. Supporting the channel through Patreon is the best way to do so, besides, of course, just watching the videos and streams. So, the Castilla. I was quite excited for this line when they were fully announced. They are some very, very large heavy cruisers with, of course, the gimmick. Wasn't excited for that part, but I'm glad that Spain is finally getting a proper line in-game. Also, too, art department modeling guys, except for the disappearing mountain and the reflection in the water right there. Excellent job on this ship. I mean, again, look at all the details on deck, the fidelity of the textures on the ship. Look at the reflections. And I know that's part of the new upgrades that we've been getting to the graphics engine and such, but it just looks good all around. Hopefully one day we'll be able to get like a person point of view and be able to walk around the decks. Be very cool, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, let's go ahead and check out the ship now. So, if you are wondering, starting out with the... of course, the camo. This is the premium camo. This is without the premium camo. So the question is, do you want rust or slightly less rust? Now, of course, it's purely cosmetic. This is only 200 dubs. It's, you know, basically an afterthought, really. Any of the other temporary camos do look pretty good, but the thing is, they get rid of the neutrality flags, unfortunately. I wish that was kind of, you know, a permanent thing. Spain was neutral in the Second World War, so they painted all their ships with giant neutrality flags so that the ships of nations at conflict would know not to blow them out of the water. But yeah, that's the cosmetic side of things. What was this ship's year of design? Is it like the 50s? 1940. Okay, 1940. I mean, again, yeah, this is what most of the Spanish ships looked like, because again, neutrality, but again, art department, can we just get, just a couple of nice premium camos that's not just gray? Alright, anyway, so, economically, of course, it's a Techline ship, but I did get the Castilla bonus package in the random bundles when I was going through, trying to get the oh lord, what was the tier 9? The Andalusia, that is right in front of my face. So, if you do get the bonus package, just of course, standard tier 10 bonus package, 50% to credits, 100% to your XPs. I will be running probably green economic bonuses on this ship because I need more resources. Alright, so you have 25mm bow, 40mm icebreaker belt right there, 30mm upper armor, torpedo protection is 40mm as well. That 40mm slat does continue around the rear to where you get a 60mm slat over the steering gears. Stern deck is 25, stern deck is 25, and bow deck is 25 as well. Mid deck plating is 30. Turret face is 250, turret side is 125 on the cheek, 100 on the flat side, and 120 on the turret rear. Turret front is 150, sorry, top front is 150, turret top is 100. And let's take a look at her citadel. So her citadel is above the water, but oh, that's not protected. But behind, oh, look at that there, behind some interesting armor. So you have the torpedo belt, which is 40, and then you have 150mm belt there on the inside, so that's 190mm. and then another 40 to get through. So 230 millimeters all in all that you got to get through to get to the Citadel. What's interesting is that you've got the torpedo belt, then this void, and then the armor belt, and then another void, and then the Citadel. So I wonder if that's going to be pretty effective. I would imagine against maybe some of the larger cruiser caliber guns, maybe, or short fuse AP. But I do think that large BB AP is just going to rip through this thing. So there's that interesting armor setup there. All right. So her survivability, she has 51,000 hit points and a 19% torpedo damage reduction. She has 3x3 254mm guns, big old guns on a tech line cruiser, with a 13-second reload time and a 180 time of 25.7 seconds, maximum dispersion of 151 meters, and a maximum range of 17.1 kilometers. For H, she has a 16% fire chance with a maximum damage of 3,450 and 42 millimeters of pin. Initial velocity is 954 meters a second. That's pretty fast. AP maximum damage of 6,150 meters a second. No, I'm sorry. Oh my god, that's its maximum damage. Good god, man, if it did go that fast, holy crap, literal railguns. I'm sorry, maximum damage with the AP of 6,150. The initial velocity is 945 meters a second. Still some very fast guns there. She does have 16 of the 128mm guns. These are the German secondary guns with a 4-second reload time and a 7.3 maximum range. However, they do not get the glorious pins of the German HE, and these can only pin 21mm of armor, so sadly they are fairly worthless except for starting fires, which they have a 5% fire chance there and a 900 meter a second velocity. Going back to the armor, something I forgot that I wanted to mention, 30, 25, and then 30, you're completely pinnable by, Tier 9 and Tier 10 light cruisers and DDs that can get their guns over that 30mm threshold, which is a lot, so I wanted to mention that there. But again, it is a cruiser. Alright. You do get torps. You get 2x5 of the 533mm torps with a range of 8 kilometers, maximum damage of 16,633, a top speed of 62 knots, with a detection range of 1.3 kilometers. 8 kilometers isn't... It's not short, but it's not long-range torps. So, for maybe torping that gap where you think that cruisers or that DD is about to pop around, or of course in drive-bys with other cruisers or battleships, kind of an ace up the sleeve thing, but a little bit of range to be, kind of effective mid-range area denial type of deals. So she does get 2 charges of the German depth charges and 2 depth charges per charge, or 2 depth charges per payload. How many planes does she get? So 2 flights. Oh, yeah, it's only 1 plane, so 2 depth charges per run. AA, she has an A rating of 81. You get 8x6 20mm guns, and then 12x4 of the 37mm guns, and then the 128s are dual purpose and do serve as AA. The 6-kilometer AA range, 50% sector reinforcement. She gets 6 flak burst and a salvo. Okay, that's good. And what's the damage? 1,610 and 335 continuous AA damage. Alright. Maneuverability, max speed of 37 knots. Turning circle radius of 820 meters. And a rudder shift time of 11.5 seconds. Consumables 14.5 base. Okay. And for her box O gimmicks, you do get your choice between fighter or spotter, hydro or DFAA, which the hydro goes out to 5 kilometers and runs for 100 seconds. DFAA is, DFAA 50% reinforcement for the continuous damage and a 300% damage boost to the flak burst. You do get a heal of 255 HP per second for 28 seconds base. That's a pretty long heal, actually. And then, of course, damage con. And, of course, you get the burst fire, which reduces your reload time to 1.2 seconds. But after that, you do have a 28.5 second reload time, and you get 2 bursts. So basically, you get, a very fast reload. So, basically. Alright. So I'm going to go ahead and put a commander module build on the ship. I'm going to meet you guys right back here. Alright, so I went with a pretty standard large cruiser build. I'm not sure if the ship has the battleship burn time or not. It doesn't. Normally it'll include you in when you click on the ship specifics, and I even went to detailed, and it doesn't tell me. You know what? We'll find out in game. But, you know, just in case, again, standard large cruiser build for now. I'll swap it out if that's not the case and just have the normal cruiser burn time. Anyway. So, main armaments mod 1, this gives a 20% buff to the chance of our main battery becoming incapacitated, and a 50% buff to the survivability, and a 20% buff to the repair time, same for the torpedo tube. So, again, with this being a large gun cruiser, we want those large guns to stay in the fight, that's why we're taking that. Then Damage Con mod 1 to, of course, reduce the chance of catching on fire and flooding. Fire by 5%, flooding by 3%. Those both, of course, cause damage to your ship, so if you can prevent them, you should. And then we went with Aiming Systems Mod 1 to rein in our dispersion a little bit. Cruiser has a longer-ish reload time at 13 seconds, so we want to make the shots count, and this reduces our maximum dispersion by 7%. And then we have Damage Control Mod 2, which reduces fire and flooding time by 15%. So, again, fire and flooding causes damage. If you can get those out faster, that's a good thing. Took our Concealment mod 1 here because, well, if you can be detected from a smaller range, then that helps you survive and leave engagements. And this gives us a 10% buff to the ship's detection, getting that detection ring down lower, meaning you can leave fight sooner if you don't want to, or you can sneak around better if you want to do that. And then main battery mod 3, 12% buff to the ship's gun's reload time, and the ship does have a 17-kilometer base range, which is very good. And you do have fighter if you want to extend that out a little bit further. Sorry, spotter if you want to extend that out a little bit further. So I figured why not increase the DPM, and there we go. Alright, so again, going the modules to, the consumables to spotter. Again, get that buff to our range if we need it. And a hydroacoustic search because, well, submarines exist and torpedoes exist. Two things I want to see if they're underwater. If you're having a very bad day against seaweeds, you could take DFAA and fighter, but fighter is just kind of like a suggestion to go bug somebody else for a minute. So, yeah, I figure we'll just take spotter with the Castilla here. Commander build. So this is my Canaries commander, and, well, I didn't really see a huge reason to change too much around with him. So what I went with was Last Stand. That way, if the ship does get incapacitated via the rudder or the engine, it is still functioning at a reduced rate. And given that this is a cruiser, that's probably going to happen. So, if they do get knocked out, we can still use them. Then I went with the safety circle, so we know when we are getting guns pointed at us, that way we can maneuver. Priority target does, of course, let you know that there are ships aiming at your ship. It lets you know how many as well. So if you see that you're very popular, you know if you need to, rack the guns and go quiet and run away. Then for the first 3-point skill, I would take a choice, really. But probably Adrenaline Rush, because this gives you a buff to your reload time when you take damage, 0.2% buff for each 1% of HP lost. And it is a big ship, so we're probably going to eat damage either way. And that gets our DPM up even more, so there you go. Then, of course, for the first 4-point skill, Concealment Expert, because we get another 10% buff to our ship's detection. Again, getting that detection radius down even more, letting us be sneaky and dictating the terms of the engagement that much better. Coming back up, I would probably then take Survivability Expert. You get an additional 450 HP per ship tier. So that means we get a nice 4,500 extra HP, and on a cruiser, that's not insignificant. Come back around and take heavy AP shells for a 5% buff to your AP damage. This is straight up free damage. Why not? And then coming back down, take Superintendent here for additional charge of your heal, hydro, and your spotter. Heal, because of course, that's healing. You're going to want that back. And of course, an extra charge of hydro and spotter doesn't hurt as well. Then finally, take MLG turrets, grease the gears. This will increase your turret's traverse speed, so when you're in those close-in situations, your turrets can keep up, and it negates the debuff you get from taking the reload module. So there you go. So what does that do to the Castilla? I'm glad you asked. So now our survivability is up to 55,500, which is very nice. Our guns now have an 11.4 second reload with a maximum dispersion of 141 meters, and we still have that range of 17.1 kilometers, but again, we can get a 20% buff to that range using the spotter. Our AP shells now do 6,458 damage, so again, free damage there. And then for our maneuverability with the speed flag, we're going 38.9 knots without any type of engine buff. So there you go. Well, without any type of engine boost, I should say. Ship's fast is what I'm trying to say. 11.7 kilometer detection by sea. That's pretty darn good, especially for a heavy cruiser like this. Oh, what's the 180 time of the turrets? Forgot to mention that. 180 time of the turrets is now 25.7 seconds. That's pretty good. I mean, by like battleship terms, that's actually very good. For cruiser terms, that's pretty good. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take the Castilla into battle. I'll meet you guys there in a voiceover first impressions review. Alright guys, voiceover Sealord here. And well, the Castilla. One thing I can confidently say is that if you are used to traditional heavy cruiser gameplay, you're going to feel right at home here playing the Castilla. It's very much a heavy cruiser. You play it very similar to many of the heavy cruisers that we already have in game. In fact, I pretty much played it just like a Henry IV or Henri IV, depending upon who you ask. It's, yeah, it did very well. One thing for sure is definitely AP is very much going to be your munition of choice in most cases. Again, very much like the Henry, because it is that good. The pinning power and the alpha is very, very nice. If a ship is dumb enough to show you broadside constantly, just keep chunking AP into it. Even if they're angled, aim for their superstructure. With the alpha that the Castilla's guns has, you're going to be easily doing 2 to 3k a salvo if you hit the superstructure of whatever it is that you are shooting at. Needless to say, if they are, dumb enough or in the situation where they have to show you broadside, definitely tap F, get your funny button ready, and dump those 2 quick salvos into their broadside. You are going to absolutely nuke them if they are a cruiser, or even in some cases battleships or battle cruisers with thin enough armor. And battleships in general, if they do show you broadside, let it rip. The AP is good enough to where you are probably going to remove like 11 to 12k from their side if you aim for like their upper belt or their bow or their stern. The AP on this ship is absolutely great. I cannot stress that enough if you haven't gathered that here for the first couple of minutes of the voiceover section. But yeah, the AP's a beast. The HE's not bad either, and with the reload module, I was able to, in the cases of where I couldn't use AP, where either the cruiser was angled enough or their superstructure was saturated or it was a battleship that was sharply angled into me, the HE still gets work done. And with the reload module, it's fairly decent. It's not going to be, getting Witherer awards at any rapid rate, but it is most definitely workable in those situations, and I didn't feel like I was in a situation where, oh crap, they're angled into me now I gotta use my lethargic HE. It was perfectly comfortable to use and was able to do a decent amount of damage given the reload time of the Castilla. And something to consider too also with the HE is that the autoloader can most definitely work to the HE's advantage as well, because if someone does put out a fire that you start, you wait till their damage con runs out by either seeing when your fire stops bringing you damage or when their flashy lights go out, and then you just dump another 2 salvos into their superstructure or their bow, and you're probably going to set a fire with those 2 salvos, So it's a very useful mechanic gimmick to have for the ship for now. Of course, like we know with gimmicks, they can and often are out gimmicked sometime in the future, but for now it's a very useful mechanic, gimmick, whatever you want to call it, for the Castilla. Also, speaking about the guns, the arcs are nice and flat and the ballistics are quite nice, so she was comfortable shooting at 17 kilometers, her maximum range, and out to, I think with the spotter you get up to like 19, 20-ish kilometers. It was comfortable shooting out for max range just as comfortable as it was shooting in close range. Obviously, you do have to lead more at longer range, but it's not like the American cruisers, where you're sending your shells into low Earth orbit before they come back down on the target. Very comfortable guns overall. And the good parts don't end just there with the guns. The ship itself is very fast when you get her up to speed, 38 knots without the speed boost. That's just with the signal flag. And yeah, 38 knots isn't blazingly fast, but for a heavy cruiser with this type of firepower, it's pretty darn good in my opinion. It does definitely feel a little sluggish to get up to speed, but once you do get up there, you can reposition pretty darn well in the Castilla. And the armor is actually really solid. I was surprised by the amount of times I was able to bounce or not get absolutely deleted by battleship AP. Don't get me wrong, don't go sell broadside onto battleships and expect to just walk it off. That's not going to happen. There are plenty of times in my play session where I did indeed get slapped down by a battleship salvo here and there, but the armor is definitely good enough to where if you're, maneuvering or angling, you can tank quite a bit in the Castilla. Of course, too, it is still, coated in 30mm and below armor. So obviously, if you run to a DD or light cruiser that's running IFHE or anything with larger caliber HE, they are going to pin you. But with your speed, you can, of course, negate that. Maneuverability, the rudder felt a tad bit sluggish. Nothing terrible, but just, of course, not fitting with the speed, because a lot of times if these ships are fast, sometimes they do have the very nice rudder as well. Not in the case with the Castilla, but again, you can take the module and fix that, of course. But yeah, a little sluggish on the rudder side of things. I'm not sure if I would take the rudder mod anyway, because the turrets do, of course, get out-turned when you are turning at 38 knots. You do outrun them, so there is that. So yeah, you could dance around a lot, but then you're outrunning your turrets left, right, and center. But of course, that is a trade-off for doing that. But yeah, it's a really solid ship all the way around in most parts. Oh, the torpedoes. The torpedoes, 8-kilometer torps. Like I said in the port section, not enough range to be like long-range torps, but enough range to, again, if you think that cruiser is going to push around the island, you can toss them down there, and a nice little solid bit of suggestion to that enemy cruiser to not go around the island, knowing that you have those torpedoes. And of course, too, if you are in a drive-by, the ace up your sleeve for sure. If somehow you're driving by a cruiser and your reload boost doesn't murder them, the torpedoes most definitely will. But if you are having to punch above your weight class and maybe having to rush a battleship or something, definitely a nice trick to have up your sleeve for sure. AA was there. Again, either you got it or you don't. Doesn't really have it in the AA department. It did feel good enough, though, that if I was with another ship or two, it felt like, with our combined AA might, we could persuade the CV to go bug somebody else for a second. But, yeah, not garbage, not great. It's there, for sure. Anything else I need to talk about this ship? But, I mean, really, it's just like, it's your generic large cruiser with comfortable ballistics, and you get the autoloader. I mean, that's basically it. Generic heavy cruiser, comfortable ballistics, good AP, autoloader. That's the Castilla in a sentence, or a incomplete sentence, if you will. I mean, again, the concealment's nice. You can disengage pretty easily with the ship with the speed. But, it's not super nice. 11-kilometer detection for large cruisers isn't unheard of at higher tier. It's, a lot better than having like 13 kilometers with the build and all that jazz. But do I think it's worth the grind? Yeah, I do. The guns are very comfortable. The ballistics are very nice. The shell arcs are very flat. The autoloader, again, is a great tool. If something's dumb enough to show you broadside, you got AP loaded. You're either going to absolutely shred them if they're a cruiser, chunk the crap out of them if they're a battleship. If you have HE loaded and you got that autoloader up and a destroyer comes by, you're going to make him regret his decision as well. Now, I do think the ship is, of course, pretty well balanced. If you haven't noticed, it does actually stick up out of the water quite a bit. And again, if you are caught broadside, you're going to definitely pay for it for sure. And while the armor is tough, it's not, nigh indestructible like Petra used to be when she originally came out. And of course, after you do use the autoloader, you do have to wait 28 seconds for your guns to reload. So there is that. You don't get the stupid reload booster like the Conde does, where you can, dump your autoloader and then slap the reload booster and have a normal reload, getting your autoloader back up. So all in all, it's a really great ship in my opinion. Should you grind it? Absolutely. I think it's definitely worth the grind, especially if you like heavy cruisers. You're going to get this ship and just be fine, because it plays like pretty much the majority of heavy cruisers that we have in the game as far as tech line ones go, of course. So it's definitely worth the grind in my opinion. It's a free tech line ship, so you're not really losing anything anyway except for your time if you don't enjoy it. But if you've liked the gameplay footage in the background and what I've described here, you will most definitely enjoy the Castilla. So the Castilla gets a nice 8 out of 10 for me. It's a really solid tech line tier 10 ship, one that's definitely worth the grind. Pros being the very lovely guns. I mean, the AP is great, HE is workable, you got the autoloader on there, so if you need to dump some shells in somebody's broadside, it's there. AP, I already said that, AP is great and all that jazz. Yeah, very comfortable guns all the way around, from the arcs to the ballistics. Lovely. Torpedoes are usable, nice in a drive-by, also nice to, again, toss around the corner if you think that cruiser that's hugging the island is about to push you. The speed is very lovely, very nice high top speed with the speed flag, no engine booster or anything like that, but again 38 knots, really solid for a heavy cruiser. Armor is also very good against other cruisers, solid against battleships, but again it is still a cruiser. You will get blapped if you do slip up and show your side. You get the heal, hydro, and spotter. I ran with those modules. I mean, obviously I ran with the heal. You can't change that out. I ran with the spotter and the hydro. Worked out great for me. You can, of course, swap those out for DFAA or fighter if you choose to do so. The downside is that it does have a pretty high freeboard. It does stand up out of the water quite a bit. So, again, it's not super hard for Battleship to find your soft spot if they do catch you, giving them too much ankle. So you got to look out for that. AA's just there. It's not great. It's just kind of there as a suggestion. You do outrun the turrets quite a bit with how fast the ship is, so you got to look out for that. And the rear turret angles, I found they could give a little bit more there. They're not terra bad like some cruisers, but they're not great either. So all in all, guys, that's my 2 cents on the Castilla. Let me know what you guys think about her in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. We just got past 50,000 subs, and I can't thank you guys enough for that. We're on our way to 75,000, so here's to that. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a wonderful Thursday. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.